bones of gigantic creatures embedded in the earth. When I see them, I don't just see fossils. I see silent witnesses, hinting at stories that go beyond science, stories of agony and brutal, tragic endings. In southern Alberta, Canada, we unearthed more than 10,000 bones of a single species in a single location. It painted a picture of a catastrophic event, a moment where an entire herd of Centrosaurus was wiped out. They moved together, as they always did, a massive prehistoric life with the synchronization honed over centuries. But the place where it happened became known as the Drowning Cemetery. The Centrosaurus, a medium-sized herbivore from the late Cretaceous period, around 76 million years ago, was a symbol of power with its large nasal horn and ornamented frill. These creatures, about 6 meters long and weighing over 2 tons, lived in groups. And it was precisely this group dynamic that sealed their fate on that day. The site in southern Alberta, Canada, became one of the largest fossil concentrations ever recorded. It was once a floodplain near an ancient river, but it became a collective grave. Imagine the scene. Rain falling in a torrential downpour, transforming the familiar territory into chaos within hours. Mud, raging currents, despair. The ground, saturated and unstable, began to collapse. The Centrosaurus, caught by surprise, tried to flee, but the mass escape only led to more destruction. Those at the front were the first to fall, many trampled by their panicked companions, others swept away by the flood and buried alive by the mud. Some, the younger or already weakened, couldn't keep pace. Death came swiftly for some, slow and agonizing for others. What remained was a tangled mass of bodies compressed under tons of flesh, bone, and earth. And then, with time, silence. Decomposition gave way to fossilization. Millions of years later, humans excavated that soil with brushes and spatulas, with a patience rivaling the passage of time itself. Paleontologists revealed an unprecedented discovery: more than 10,000 bones belonging to a single species in a single location. The Drowning Cemetery had been revealed. The scientists' interpretation was immediate. This wasn't the result of deaths over generations. This was a single event, a sudden catastrophe that wiped out an entire herd. The uniformity of the fossils, the lack of erosion, and the absence of signs of predation confirmed it. Everything screamed urgency, desperation, tragedy. Now, picture a Triceratops horridus, more than 9 meters long, weighing between 6 and 12 tons, slowly walking across the plains of a lost world. With 3 sharp horns and a protective bony frill, this giant herbivore was one of the last dinosaurs on Earth before the mass extinction about 66 million years ago. But among the many fossils discovered, one tells a particularly dark story, marked by pain, survival, and violence. What caught the paleontologists' attention wasn't just a well-preserved skull, but the perforations located in vulnerable areas of the facial bone. These perforations, when analyzed, revealed a specific pattern, a curvature, spacing, and depth compatible with only one creature of that time, Tyrannosaurus Rex. The powerful jaws of this predator could exert a force of more than 5 tons, enough to crush bone and tear away flesh. But what makes this case so intriguing is that the Triceratops didn't die at the moment of the attack. Quite the opposite. The bone surrounding the perforations shows clear signs of irregular growth, a biological reaction to the body's attempt to heal, an inflamed bone callus typical of infection. The Triceratops survived. This discovery changes the traditional narrative of the late Cretaceous food chain. Instead of simple predation, we see a complex drama: attack, survival, infection, continuous pain, and finally, a slow death. The skull becomes a witness not only to a brutal fight, but also to the resilience of a wounded animal struggling to carry on. The infection that settled into the perforations was severe. The disorganized bone growth indicates that the body reacted however it could. This inflammatory response is a clear sign that it lived for several weeks, perhaps even months, after the attack. Every movement of the jaw, every bite of leaves or branches caused pain. And then, in the heart of the Gobi Desert, one of the most inhospitable regions on the planet, lies one of the most dramatic testimonies of the age of dinosaurs, a moment frozen more than 70 million years ago, where life and death became intertwined in a fierce dance. This is the fossil known as the fighting dinosaurs, Protoceratops versus Velociraptor. Two names, two destinies sealed in a confrontation as brutal as it was intimate. On one side, Protoceratops, a medium-sized herbivore with a large bony frill and a beak sharp as scissors. There's a fossil that reveals the precise instant of combat. I can picture it vividly: a velociraptor, leg raised, driving its killing claw into the neck of a Protoceratops, and the herbivore responding with its powerful jaws, biting down hard on the attacker's arm. Both immobilized, both locked in a final act of struggle. There was no victor, only mutual death. The sand, rich in minerals, compacted over time, becoming an extraordinary agent of preservation. The fossil preserved not only the bones, but also their relative positions. Limbs, teeth, claws, everything frozen, as if time itself paused to record nature's raw ferocity. Now let me tell you about another discovery. In the arid heart of what is now Montana, approximately 66 million years ago, one of the most brutal confrontations of the Cretaceous period reached its end. Amid a world dominated by colossal reptiles, the sound of death echoed with a dull impact, muffled by a blow of unimaginable force. The supreme predator, Tyrannosaurus Rex, met its end in a shocking way. This particular T-Rex, nicknamed Pex Rex, is a fossil that tells a unique story. Scientists analyzing its fossilized skeleton discovered a massive puncture wound in the neck, precisely where vital arteries, the trachea, and crucial muscles supporting the head were located. It was as if someone had driven a spear with devastating force straight into the animal's vital systems. But this spear wasn't metal. It was bone, a horn, the horn of a Triceratops. I imagined the scene taking shape in the minds of paleontologists. A close-quarters confrontation, a decisive strike, a hunting attempt gone wrong. The greatest terrestrial predator of its era became the prey. Bone fragments around the puncture indicate the impact was deep, piercing soft tissues, blood vessels, and likely perforating the trachea. There are no signs of healing at the wound site, meaning the blow was fatal or, at the very least, the direct cause of death. This fossil, Mo 980, was discovered in 1997 by a geologist named Bob Harmon, while excavating a region known for its Cretaceous deposits. The nickname Pex Rex was given in honor of Louis Peck, the owner of the ranch where the fossil was found. Since then, Pex Rex has fascinated scientists and the public alike because of its story, its end, its silent message written into every fracture, every shattered bone. And then there are the mass group deaths. Dinosaurs buried alive. In many parts of the world, paleontologists have unearthed true dinosaur cemeteries, skeletons tangled together as if the animals died trying desperately to escape. And that's exactly what happened. They tried to flee. They tried to survive. But there was no time. Sandstorms, violent floods, mudslides, sudden, merciless natural forces that transformed the landscape in the blink of an eye. Those who lived there were swallowed alive by the very environment they once called home. These fossil sites reveal something rare. Moments of prehistoric life frozen in time, not in isolation, but in community. Entire dinosaur families, from juveniles to adults, preserved side by side, their deaths bearing witness to an instant of collective panic. These weren't natural deaths, isolated or spread out over time, but sudden, catastrophic moments when nature turned against its own children with devastating fury. In China, within the Yixian Formation, entire groups of Psittacosaurus, small bipedal herbivores, have been found piled together in layers of volcanic sediment. All evidence suggests they were buried alive by ash from a sudden eruption. In Mongolia, sandstorms engulfed dinosaurs mid-motion, their poses preserved within the desert, revealing final attempts to escape an inevitable death. In Madagascar, a mudslide captured an entire group of Majungasaurus, feared predators that, according to the evidence, had no time to fight back. They were crushed, immobilized, preserved. And in North America, in locations such as the Morrison Formation, the remains of Diplodocus and other sauropods appear grouped in patterns suggesting entire herds were wiped out at once by sudden floods. These sites allow us to see beyond death. They show us how dinosaurs lived, how they organized themselves into herds, families, and social structures, and how, even in groups, they were vulnerable to the power of nature. Now, let's turn our attentions to the Pachyrhinosaurus crushed in a stampede. In the petrified silence of time, when the world was ruled by gigantic reptiles, a tragedy unfolded beneath the darkened skies of ancient North America. These bones belong to Pachyrhinosaurus, a gregarious herbivore whose head was adorned with thick bony bosses rather than sharp horns. But it's not this animal's appearance that draws attention. It's the way it died. Paleontologists carefully excavating a vast rock formation in what is now the Canadian territory of Alberta encountered a macabre scene. Dozens of Pachyrhinosaurus fossils stacked atop one another, with bones crushed and fractured. I can hardly imagine the scene that unfolded in Patagonia millions of years ago. A herd of Pachyrhinosaurus, peaceful herbivores, suddenly seized by panic. The earth trembled beneath their feet as they ran, a chaotic mass of flesh and bone. Those that fell were trampled, the weight of the herd becoming an instrument of death. The fossils tell a grim story, a herd death, where the desperation of the living became a tomb for the unfortunate. Among those ancient bones, scientists have found juveniles, adults, even hatchlings, suggesting a family or social unit wiped out in a single, terrifying moment. I've seen illustrations attempting to capture this event, but nothing can truly convey the horror of that stampede. Even defensive formations, like those of modern elephants protecting their young, were useless against such overwhelming panic. Not all of them died instantly. Some fossils bear the marks of healed fractures, hinting at individuals who survived for a time, even with broken bones. But others show only acute trauma, the microfractures revealing a force not from above, as in a landslide, but from all directions, as if the bodies were crushed within a living, desperate mass. Then there's the story of the Carnotaurus. Imagine this meat-eating bull, one of the largest and most agile theropods of its time, roaming what is now South America. But even this king had its weaknesses. A particular fossil revealed a mystery hidden in its jaw, a significant unhealed fracture. The break was deep, compromising the entire side of its mouth, affecting its ability to hunt and survive. Paleontologists immediately recognized the severity of the injury. It wasn't a superficial fracture, but a severe rupture in the lower jawbone, causing extreme pain and hindering even basic movements. The absence of healing was a clear warning sign. When an animal survives a fracture, the bone shows evidence of repair, new tissue, calluses, structural adjustments. But this fossil showed none of that. The fracture was raw, as if it had occurred shortly before death. The grim hypothesis? Starvation. Unable to fully open its jaw or exert the force needed to kill prey, the injured Carnotaurus was condemned to waste away. Imagine its suffering. Every attempt to bite, every jaw movement sending waves of pain through its body. Each step slower, more hesitant. A predator transformed into a shadow, pushed out of territorial disputes, abandoned by prey, perhaps even by its own kind. Then there's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. In Montana, a fossil revealed bite marks on its bones, made by another Tyrannosaurus Rex. This surprising discovery sheds light on T-Rex behavior in ways we could only imagine. The tooth marks matched the robust dentition of another tyrannosaur, forcing us to reconsider their social and feeding behavior. Was it cannibalism, a territorial dispute, or a meal where opportunity outweighed restraint? To understand this revelation, we must understand the Tyrannosaurus Rex itself. 13 meters long, nearly 4 meters tall at the hips, with a jaw capable of exerting up to 6 tons of press, it was more than a predator. It was a bone crusher. Its banana-shaped teeth were capable of crushing not only imagine a time capsule, not filled with trinkets, but with tooth marks etched into ancient bone. Those marks, discovered in Montana, aren't just random scratches. They're signatures, left by the teeth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex on the remains of, well, another Tyrannosaurus Rex. These aren't faint scrapes either. The depth and clarity reveal the very moment one tyrannosaur pressed its teeth against the bone of another, tearing away flesh and splintering the carcass. When I first saw the images of those fossils, I felt like I was peering directly into the Cretaceous period. But the question that always returns to me is, what does this mean? Was Tyrannosaurus Rex actually eating its own kind? And if so, why? The most widely accepted theory suggests opportunistic cannibalism. In harsh environments like the late Cretaceous, where food was scarce, even the largest predators might have been driven to feed on the dead. This isn't unheard of in the animal kingdom today. Crocodiles, sharks, Even bears sometimes turn to cannibalism when resources are scarce. Why would it have been different 66 million years ago? There's another, even more dramatic possibility: a fight between two Tyrannosaurus Rex individuals, perhaps over territory, mating rights, or a kill. And at the end of that confrontation, the victor may have consumed parts of the defeated rival. Wolves, for example, sometimes kill members of rival packs and feed on them. In this scenario, Tyrannosaurus Rex is more than just a killing machine. It's an animal with complex social behaviours, taken to a brutal extreme.